Thank you so much, Barbara and Claire. And I think you've kind of shown that the way that UCD all kind of collects and even democratizes data is really kind of exemplary and something that I think other institutions can look up to. So huge thank you for that. Just moving right ahead, we're moving to Dublin Fet College in Rathmines with Lisa Shields. Are you there, Lisa? Yeah, Lisa's going to talk to us about UDL and breaking down barriers in the multicultural classroom. Thanks.
Okay, thanks a million for inviting me to speak today. My name is Lisa. I'm from Rathmines College, so City of Dublin Fet College, Rathmines. So I teach in marketing and business, so QQI level 5 and level 6. And we have just over 850 students in the college, and it's a pretty diverse student cohort that I teach. I started teaching 5 years ago, and in the level 6 program for business, we have an advanced business certificate. There would have been about 1 in 10 students for whom English was not their first language. This year, that class, it's 8 out of 10. So it has changed hugely in the last 5 years. I did the UDL badge back in 2021. And since then, I've been trying to implement UDL in my classes. So I mainly teach marketing and business to QQI level 5 and 6. And because I'm, relatively new to teaching, I do bring a lot of my industry experience into the classroom because I worked in marketing for over 20 years. And I saw UDL as a great way just to bring alternative ways of teaching, more accessible areas into the classroom. And I kind of see UDL as a great framework. And because I'm teaching that real multicultural background, using the UDL framework to offer alternatives to just make those classes more accessible to students has worked really well for me. So I'm going to talk today about a couple of ideas that I've brought into the classroom. And looking at engagement, expression, and representation, it's really engagement that I'm going to focus on. Because what I find is that, we've moved from a cohort which was mainly native English speakers through to a very different multicultural background of students who come from different walks of life. Many are coming to us from war-torn countries where they've escaped conflict. They arrive in Ireland, that they're actually even getting into college to us is a big win, okay? So, and then we're facing them sort of with content sometimes that really isn't engaging for that student cohort. They don't know, sometimes, they might know the word Bank of Ireland, but if a lecturer or a tutor puts up Bank of Ireland on the screen, like, do our students even know that company name? So what I've tried to do is really focus on engagement. How can I change the content of classes to make it more engaging for students? So just to kind of understand, the challenges that these students face. This is a matching exercise that I did with our staff members in a CPD just before Christmas. And apologies to anyone in the room who might be a native Russian speaker or who speaks Russian, because there might be some mistakes here in my Russian. But what I wanted to demonstrate with this is the cognitive load for those students before they even get their heads around what actually is this tutor trying to teach me. The cognitive load in understanding that vocabulary, which is very different for them. How do they even know what we're talking? How do they understand those words? So you can see from the 6 examples here, I have the English on the left and the Russian on the right. And I guess we could probably guess 1 or 2 of those. You could say, okay, there's probably 1 or 2 that we might be able to guess at straight away, just by the words that are up there in terms of which one is the English and which one is the Russian, how can we match them? But I suppose doing this with my colleagues, it kind of just brought it home to us, okay, even before we get into the business of actually teaching the sales and marketing management or, the economics or the financial reporting, the vocabulary is actually quite a big challenge. So that's for anyone who was actually trying to match them up, there's the results there. I just put the results of what's matching. So we could have guessed, contract, or maybe you could have guessed, maybe the investment one. But the other ones would have been pretty unusual. So I kind of put my UDL hat on and I thought, okay, what can I do differently that might have an impact in the classroom, isn't going to take up a massive amount of time for me in terms of the time I have available to prepare my classes, but actually make this more engaging for the students that are in front of me. And we already are meeting a very diverse cohort of students, never mind their cultural background or the language they speak, but we would have a higher instance of students coming to us in FET who have additional learning needs, who have learning differences. And now we have this other challenge here where we have to actually teach a class of students, some who have maybe excellent English, some are in the middle, a lot have only been in the country even less than 6 months. So, their English is it's very different in terms of how can we overcome that barrier. So I thought about how can I look at multiple means of engagement. And in terms of recruiting interest, I saw that it was really key that we start representing those students' identities. They need to see something in the classroom that resonates with them. The Irish examples are all fine, but how do we actually get people excited about, how do I get those level 6 students actually interested and engaged in learning about sales and marketing management when they come into us? So I focused on learner voice. What I did was back in September, I did a survey with all of the students. So we had close to actually 35 students in that class. It's really big. It's a popular course because it gives students a stepping stone to get into second year of a business degree. So students come to us, they complete 1 year, and then they go into second year, study marketing and NCI. They can do the business degree. Some of them go on to TU. Some of them apply for second year in UCD or DCU. So I thought about, okay, how can we engage these students with what we're doing? So I did a survey, just 3 really simple questions. I said, give me 3 examples of global brands that you're familiar with. Give me 1 example of a company who do excellent marketing. And I looked at the results of what came back to me. And then what I did was I used AI to get all those examples into my content and create, PowerPoint presentations, quizzes that would resonate more with students. And it took a little bit of time in terms of putting the Microsoft Office form together, getting it out to students. But what I was able to do then was actually change my resources so that when students were coming in, they would see, for example, there's a company in Ukraine who do deliveries. They're like almost a competitor to the post office. And since they do international deliveries and international, both like packages and letters, and since the war in Ukraine, their business has boomed because obviously an awful lot of people are living abroad, want to keep in touch with family, want to send packages and letters back and forth. Sometimes important documents are needed. So that was one that really resonated with the Ukrainian students. So just by being able to show, okay, a logo of a bank that they're familiar with or a logo of a grocery store they're familiar with, it got my students more engaged. In terms of creating a culture of respect, I think it really does bring the students along because they see, okay, someone's taken the time to do a bit of research, find out about what might resonate with me. And it's not just like the physical access to the content or being able to comprehend what's going on, but emotionally, that student comes into the classroom, sees something that's more familiar, then that's the whole idea of joy in the classroom. Okay, so we're bringing that back into the classroom, that they're here with us, they see something that actually resonates with them. By using content that's interesting to them, tailoring the content for me hasn't been, I would say, a hugely time-consuming process, but I have to say that's by using technology tools. So the technology has really helped me just to get over that time barrier. 2 other ideas that I've done is glossaries. So we use Moodle for our learning management system, but I'm sure this is available in Blackboard or other learning management systems that you guys might use. And what we did is I set up a cross-module glossary. So the students that come into my classroom, they are able to go to ESOL classes for 3 hours a week. And they're doing their English with my colleague, Katrina. So we sat down together and we said, okay, what could we do to try to bring these 2 modules together? So what I've tried to do is I talk to Katrina a couple of weeks in advance. I say, listen, these are the topics I'm going to teach. Can we set up a glossary? And I put the words in, and then Katrina tries to work that in whenever she can into her English class, so that maybe the students are seeing, okay, the terms that they're coming up against for sales and marketing, for marketing management in advance of actually coming into my class. The other great thing about those glossaries is that students can edit them as well. So, for example, if I have Portuguese speakers, the Brazilian students, they might be in the first class of the week, and they can go in and they can look at the definition of standardized marketing or, segmented marketing or niche marketing. And they can go in and put in the equivalent Portuguese word in there. So the other Brazilian students, by maybe the second class in the week, they might have missed it, they can see that. Because again, we're working with, busy individuals. They've got like their family lives going on. They're picking up kids from school. They've got part-time work to keep things going as well. So it really helps as well. A couple of the Irish students said to me, do you know, Lisa, having the glossaries up there is great because I myself might have missed your class. I'm not familiar with it. I'll have a quick look at the glossary and see what's coming next. So it has helped everybody. And I guess that comes back to the whole UDL idea of, we're designing for the margins, but we're helping the mainstream. It's making life easier for everybody. The other idea is the multilingual brainstorming. So I did a bit of research. I kind of thought there's other countries around Scandinavia and Europe that are, dealing with the same challenges that we have. So I wonder what they're doing. And in some of the Scandinavian countries, there's much more pressure with international students that come in, particularly refugees. There's legislation in place in some countries where they have to reach a certain level of language proficiency and be able to get a job within a limited time frame, because they only have access to that education and training maybe for 12 months. And one of the things I found that in the research was this idea of multilingual brainstorming. So in my classes, often there might be like an idea, okay, we're going to come up with an idea for a case study. And students would really struggle with that because they're trying to communicate in their level of English with some fluent speakers, some people that are not, it might have a little bit of English, some that don't. And although it kind of went a little bit against the grain for me, because we want to integrate, we want to have our students from different backgrounds with each other. I've trialed this where all the Russian speakers can be together. So might be people from Moldova, people from Ukraine, who they all have Russian as a fluent language. Then I would let all the Portuguese speakers be together, the Arabic people for the first 10 minutes. And the quality of the ideas they come up with are actually brilliant. So in their native language, their brainstorming is much better. Then they can use their translation tool to get that into English and put it up on Padlet. That's one of the other things that has really worked. Again, it's more, I suppose, engaging students, that idea of if they're familiar with the content, they'll have maybe similar examples, they come from a similar background, and they will be able to make more, get more out of the class. In terms of what has worked, I guess I mentioned this already, but the technology is definitely a game changer. If I had tried to do this when I first started teaching 5 years ago, I think the time constraints would have been too much. It would have been too much for me to get through. But using Gemini or using other AI tools to come up with those examples, you do have to fact check them, of course, and go back. And sometimes that's a funny moment in class where I might have something up on the screen and the student who's familiar with that company will say, hang on, Lisa, you've got that wrong. So it does create a conversation sometimes. But without that AI tool, I probably wouldn't be able to do it. And in summary, I would say, like, really incorporating diversity, it has just brought so much richness into the classroom, both for the international students and the native English speakers, the Irish students. It's improved outcomes for all. And I think the couple examples that I've shown today, I think show that really the whole UDL principle of if we design for those with some additional needs, we're improving the learning experience for everyone, is really what I have found to work. So yeah, I think that's me. Thanks a million.
Thanks so much, Lisa, and thanks for sticking to time as well. Everyone's been doing great in that area, so it's great to see kind of the tangible examples of the multicultural classroom and what people have actually done on the ground to make these positive changes.